Good afternoon and welcome to everybody, both in the gallery and online, to our regular council meeting of May 11th. And I call the meeting to order at 1 o'clock. And I look to the council if there's any added items they would like to add to the agenda. Okay, seeing none then, I'll ask for consensus for adoption of the agenda. And that is adopted. Thank you very much. I trust you all had time to have a look at the minutes from our previous council meeting, April 27th. Was there any addition, deletions, or corrections that you'd like to bring forward now? Seeing none then, through consensus as well, I'll ask for adoption of our minutes from April 27th. And that is approved as well, or adopted as well. Takes us to item number 3, delegations, Municipal Affairs Assessment Services Branch, and I'll turn it over to C.L. Williams for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and good afternoon, Council. As per the agenda, we have with us today Joanne Fortin and Travis Howard, members of Municipal Affairs Assessment Services Branch, to give a presentation to Council on the Designated Industrial Properties Assessment process in Alberta. This is part of the ongoing data center proposal information sharing that we have been doing the last several months. Municipal Affairs does have internal tax assessment folk who assess properties of this scale and size, but I won't steal any of their thunder, and we'll turn it over right now to the people on your screen. Travis, Joanne, feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us today. We will be presenting on designated industrial property assessment. We will be reviewing the latest updates to the provincial assessment role as it pertains to your municipality. Next slide, please. So today, I'm Joanne, it says Fortin, but I am Joanne McKinnon. We haven't updated my last name yet. I got married a couple of years ago. So I'm now Joanne McKinnon, and I am the manager of the Linear Assessment and Data Management unit here at the Assessment Services Branch. With me here is Travis Howard. He is one observing today with us. Will the registration rate in designated industrial property and the timeline between the and role tool. Also about the town of Olds and how it goes to the printer. We'll share updates, and we're going to on data sets. This presentation should take about 10 to 15 minutes, leaving us some time for questions at the end. I'm going to do the first half of this presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Travis to complete the presentation at the end. Next slide, Marcy. So, who are we? We are your designated industrial property assessment team, and we work on behalf of the provincial assessor. We are a multidisciplinary team of professionals. We have a wide range of skills in property assessment. We have some engineers, accounting, geospatial experts. We have project managers, quality assurance, and we have advanced computer administrative capabilities. We're working a lot with AI. Currently, a bunch of us are taking courses and learning all about that new futuristic technique when it comes to that. Our core mission here is to prepare designated industrial property assessments. We defend the provincial role in a way that establishes equity amongst the province. This assessment role is then prepared for municipalities for property tax revenue. Next slide, Marcy. So here at the Assessment Services Branch, we have had a little bit of a org restructure. We have Michael Menard, who is the acting executive director. He is also our provincial assessor. We also have Arla Pertle as the acting director of the Centralized Industrial Property Assessment, and Aaron Allen, who is the acting director of Linear and Data Management. The other managers listed here help oversee day-to-day operations and keep the branch running as efficiently as we can. It's important to note that we're always available to any municipalities and stakeholders to offer necessary clarifications or questions regarding the assessment role that is issued to your municipality. Next slide, Marcy. So here I'm going to go over some of the key dates and timelines at the Assessment Services Branch. The assessment cycle starts with the preparation of the provincial assessment roll. This starts with a mail out request for information. So later on this month, we're going to send out our major cost reporting, and that is for the electric power generation facilities for Linear, and also the major plants for centralized industrial property. So we'll be sending those out here at the end of March, followed by the industrial RFI on August 17th, and then the Linear RFI goes out on August 31st this year. Between the RFI mail out and their reporting deadline, our team reviews RFI submissions and works with stakeholders to produce accurate and equitable assessments. We do property inspections, we go out and collect and analyze of different reporting data from the stakeholders. Once the assessment roll is finalized, our team distributes them to the municipalities and issue individual assessment notices to our stakeholders. The mail out of the assessment notices this year for Linear was at the end of January. I think it was January 30th for Linear and the end of February for the industrial group. Following the mail out, we enter a big inquiry phase. We prioritize open communication to resolve questions through property owners. They maintain the formal right to file a complaint if their concerns can't be fully addressed by us. If a complaint is filed, our team will defend and amend the assessments as required. This can be in the form of a joint recommendation or a hearing at the LPRT. The complaint deadline for Linear was on April 11th, and for industrial, it was just on Friday here, May 8th. Other necessary timelines to be noted are captured here on this slide in front of you. So today, the town of Olds would have received their A1. We have also 2 other amendments that can go on throughout the year for anything that comes up or any revisions that we have to do. A2 is in September, and then we have an A3 in November and a supplementary assessment that goes out in December. This is a very simplified summary of our process. We maintain confidence of the stakeholders, providing stability and consistency of the assessment role. We're always working on improving our accuracy and transparency. Efficiencies and communication is a large part of our goals as this department. Next slide, Mercy. So we also have 3 other types of reports that are sent quarterly to the municipalities. This includes the well drilling activity report, the mailing address updates, and also the Assessment Services Branch newsletter. Next slide, please. So here I'm going to just talk a little bit about the DI property requisition timeline. The DI property requisition is calculated based on the provincial assessment roll and the operational costs of the centralized industrial assessment. In March, ministerial order establishes the updated rate, which is then distributed to all municipal CAOs. The new rate is published online in April. Municipalities apply this rate to their eligible designated industrial properties. The funds are collected and remitted to the government of Alberta within 30 days of the municipal tax due date. In February, we also have an annual review of the accounts for any unpaid balances, which are reflected in the subsequent year's requisition. Okay, so now next slide, please, Marcy. We're going to get into what is designated industrial property. So first off, we have linear. I can speak well to this. Linear property consists of property that often crosses, say, municipal boundaries, provincial boundaries, even sometimes federal boundaries throughout Alberta. It is what you think. A lot of it is linear in nature, such as pipelines, telecom, transmission lines. We have wells, all the electric power systems, generation, and railway. It's important to state that we have been doing linear property here at the Assessment Services Branch for a very long time. Next slide, Marcy. So the next here I'm going to speak about is the industrial properties. The designated industrial properties includes all facilities that are regulated by the Alberta Energy Regulator, the Alberta Utilities Commission, and also the Canadian Energy Regulator. These include well sites, batteries, compressor stations. We also do major plants, which are listed in the Machinery and Equipment Assessment Minister's Guidelines, and they can include all your oil sands, your gas plants, your pipeline terminals, pulp and paper, lumber mills, refinery, and petrochemicals. These properties are now included in the centralized industrial property assessment system managed by the ASB. We're going to touch on the data centers later in this presentation, but the data center that Olds is considering at this point in time would be considered a major plant. Next slide, Mercy. Here you're going to see the provincial roll total in a 5-year stacked bar graph. The total assessment on the provincial roll was almost $219 billion for the 2025 assessment year. Linear was $97.4 billion of that total, and industrial was $121.5 billion. All DI properties saw an increase of 3.3% from last year, linear at 4.5% increase, and industrial at 2.2%. Next slide, please. So here is just a visual of the current landscape of the oil and gas infrastructure in the town of Olds. I understand that town of Olds doesn't have a huge, there's not a lot of pipeline and wells and industrial sites in Olds. I wish we could show you the electric power and telecom, but we don't have anything that visually represents that at this time. This data in front of you here is sourced by the Alberta Energy Regulator. The pipelines are traced in green and the industrial properties are in blue. Next slide, please. The town of Olds saw an 8.69% assessment increase, which is higher than the provincial designated industrial property average of 3.3% that I mentioned earlier. The total linear assessment is $18.9 million and saw an increase of $1 million from last year. So now I'm going to turn it over to Travis Howard to finish the presentation.
Hello, so my name is Travis Howard here. So if on the next slide here, so with the Alberta data centers, I'll go over here with the data centers. Our strategic focus. The Alberta data center strategic focus is about using energy advantage, climate, and regulatory environment to become a leading hub for AI-driven digital infrastructure while protecting grid affordability and ensuring long-term economic developments for Albertans. Next slide, please. So with the data center strategy work to date, The emphasis is on ASO connection processes and encouraging a bring your own power approach to manage grid impacts for large data center loads. The announced in August of 2025 and will become effective December 31st of 2026, a 2% levy on computer hardware for grid connected data centers of 75 megawatts or greater, and this will be applied on a sliding scale. The levy is offset against provincial corporate income taxes. And now on the assessment of data centers, so this includes crypto mines of over 75 megawatts will be classified as designated industrial properties and assessed by the province rather than by the municipal assessor. Regulatory clarification confirms that computer equipment is non-assessable property under the Municipal Government Act. Next slide, please. So this is just talking about the Financial Statutes Amendment Act, which basically just goes over the 2% levy, and it just enables powers for a minister to enter into this agreement. Next slide, please. So recently, the matters relating to assessment and taxation regulation updated their section 2, part 1, under the definition of computer and equipment. So now this is defined along with the ancillary tangible personal properties such as racks, cabinets, and networking equipment. So a lot of the data centers, computer equipment would fall under this, would be non-accessible. Next slide here. So I'll be just going over the assessment of data centers in the province of Alberta. Next slide. So who assesses data centers? That's the question being brought up new because they are a new inventory. All data centers over 75 megawatts will be assessed as DI property under the assessment services branch. And data centers under 75 megawatts are to be assessed by the municipal assessor unless the data center is grid connected and co-located with power generation. Next slide, please. What is accessible in a data center? Mainly outside of the computer equipment, which would be non-accessible. That would leave the power generation and backup power, the buildings and improvements such as the HVAC, the switchgear, the fire suppression systems, the chillers, the pumps, and the cooling towers. And then as last, the market land value and the site preparation costs. The assessments of the improvement can also depend on how much it is supporting the building versus the computer equipment. So a lot of that, depending upon the HVAC of the building, will be depending upon if it's for the building or for the computer equipment. Next slide, please. So how is it assessed? Depending if the data center is connected to the grid and producing, the power generation would be linear assessed. If the data center is not producing to the grid, and the power generation would be assessed as machinery equipment. Now, the difference of whether the power generation is assessed as linear or as machinery equipment would be the depreciation schedule and the regulatory 77% of the value that is placed on the machinery and equipment. The buildings are to be assessed on actual costs. However, if the actual costs are not provided or available, the buildings would be assessed using the cost estimator program Marshall and Swift. Because data centers are a new type of inventory and the non-accessible computer equipment costs be a majority of the overall project costs, determining the estimated assessment value is a bit challenging as of right now until the project is completed and construction cost renditions are submitted. As of right now, we have not had one of these hyperscale AI data centers completed to properly estimate what the assessment would be between removing the computer costs and assessing the remaining portions of the facility. So now with Olds having the Synapse data center, as per the AUC application, it is to commence later this year, October 2026, with the estimated completion by October 2031. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to go over the assessment model review. The minister recently made decisions regarding the fundamental principles of the assessment model review. Stakeholders are eager for the next phase, which will modernize valuation models to reflect current technologies. This has not been updated since about 2005. This allows the model phase to proceed and reduces inequity between rates versus reported costs. As of March 2026, the assessment model review has transitioned from the high-level policy design phase into the technical implementation of specific models. Municipal Affairs has finalized several foundational policy decisions with legislative and regulatory updates expected to be complete by June of 2026. So about next month, we should have an update. There's also a commitment to update each model every 5 years so that the models remain up to date consistently. Next slide, please. So with our expectations, it is hard to argue with this philosophy. Effective communication and collaboration, the sharing of information such as permits and data between the government of Alberta and various stakeholders, this form a backbone of a high-functioning assessment system. When the flow of information is seamless, it reduces the need for retroactive corrections and ensures the assessment role reflects the true state of property in real time. Remain an open door for feedback, be it concerns, complaints, or general comments, is what transform the technical process into a trusted public service. In the world of property assessment where the stakes can be high and legislation is complex, transparency is often the best tool. Next slide, please. So just some key takeaways. The property assessment system in Alberta, specifically regarding designated industrial property, continues to serve as a vital economic engine. By balancing technical precision with a commitment to open communication, the system achieves a combination of fiscal impact and stability. Alberta's DIP assessment grew by 3.3% year over year, and the 2.8 $2.9 billion in DIP assessment and expected to generate over $2.2 billion in tax revenue for municipalities and supporting essential public services, and about $420 million to the Alberta School Foundation Fund. With growth, continued enhancements as well as projected growth in developing areas, maintaining commitment to fairness, transparency, and data-driven decisions making to ensure an equitable system. Next slide, please. So that is our presentation, and if there's any follow-up questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Again, lots of information in there, and lots to think about. I'm going to open the questions to council. I see Councillor Taylor's got his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through to our Travis Howard and Joanne McKinnon. Minister Nate Glubish was here last month and shared with us a bit of a benchmark that they use. About every 100 megawatts generates roughly 15 million in municipal tax revenue. Would you be able to comment on if that benchmark aligns with what you've seen in your department? Thanks.
I have not seen that personally. I have seen, just talking to other assessors in Alberta, that the estimated project costs equates to, like, this includes the computer costs. If you take the overall project cost, you're generating about 10 to 15% would become the assessable portion left over from removing the computer costs. Now, this is, yeah, until we see an actual project come through, it's still kind of up in the air on this.
Good, thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Oh, sorry.
Did that answer your question?
I guess, like, if I'm to take from that, then that's not an accurate assessment, the 15 million per 100 megawatts? Like, you don't really have a ratio that you benchmark that as a function of the megawatts generated? It seems like just a function of how expensive the building is.
Exactly, yeah. It's more of a, yeah, more effectively just the reported cost. And we do have a study done by Business Renewables that we could share with you after with Marcy, and that will give you more of a representation of how that supports how much revenue.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz, please.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to the delegation. So if the project is built and say later becomes vacant or the company becomes maybe perhaps insolvent or such, what happens to the assessed values in the town's tax revenue? Can you answer that yet? Are there mechanisms in the DIP framework to protect municipalities from those scenarios?
I can answer that. We can't answer that yet. There is no mechanisms in place. I know when it comes to power generation, they actually have some safeguards in place for what if a property does go bankrupt. But when it comes to these data centers, I can't answer that. I'm not sure, Travis, if you would have more to add.
Yeah, if it's more so, yeah, if it's bankrupt, I can't answer that part. Now I know if the facility was to stop producing, like they just shut down completely, and I know that the M&E portion would become non-accessible or non-taxable at that point, and then the buildings and land would still be considered accessible. But it's since this is such a new inventory type, we've never seen this type before, so it's tough to answer a question like this at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the delegation. I think you briefly touched on maybe a challenge process or an appeal process, but could you just elaborate a little bit on that for a project and, whether it's the Synapse Data Center or another project? So it's built and then the assessment is done. Who can challenge? Does the municipality have an opportunity to challenge? What does that look like? Thank you.
Yes, we'll send out our assessments. Like you said, the construction will be complete. The equipment can go in service. When we prepare the assessment and the stakeholder or the owner will work with us if they have any sort of discrepancy with it. If we don't agree, then we go to the LPRT. They have 60 days to put in a complaint, and then we'll get scheduled a hearing. Also, the municipality can put in a complaint as well.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daly, and through to our delegation. Do you have a sense of where uninterruptible power supplies will fall inside the computing equipment definition? It seems to me like a generous enough definition of ancillary property to the computing could include or could exclude, depending if they're rack level or not. I'm just wondering if there's been some consideration to, it seems like a pretty fuzzy line where you draw it between the computing equipment and the stuff that's ancillary to it. Thanks.
Do you want me to answer that, Travis?
I don't know. Yeah, that definition, yeah, is still going through being vetted and being reviewed, because we're still have some questions on how they drafted up that legislation.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and again, through you to the delegation. Can you talk a little about, in a case where you've got a project that's theoretically, conceivably, is going to extend over several years? So you're going to have a fairly large, long timeline continuum from the time, say, a first module comes on stream, lights are turned on, the machines are all working, till you get successive modules or buildings on. Can you talk a little bit about that process and the revenue stream for the municipality in terms of the tax revenue and the ongoing assessment, I guess, that could theoretically stretch over several years? Thank you.
I can touch on this. Yes, so if it's done in phases, we have that throughout the province where there's certain projects that happen throughout the year, like it could take a 5-year build. But if they're connected to the grid or and they're producing, that is accessible. So if only phase 1 is complete, and that would be accessible and taxable for the municipality.
Supplemental?
Thank you. And so maybe I'm getting into the weeds, and if I am, somebody will correct me. So if I think back to one of the earlier slides, you talked about there's a threshold there, I think, of power generation, 75 megawatts. So it may take a couple of phases to exceed the 75 watt or 75 megawatt stage. How do you guys look at that then? Like, individually, a module might be less than 75, so it goes down a different decision tree path than something that eventually exceeds the 75 megawatt? Or am I totally out to lunch? Thank you.
So with that 75, that's based upon the overall through the application. So if they put through the application to AUC that they are 75 or higher, then it'll be automatically done by the designated, it'd be assessed under a designated industrial property. Because there could be phases where it's only 25 megawatts per year until they reach their maximum, but it would be automatically designated as an industrial or a DIP property.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kirsch?
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the delegation. You had a slide in your presentation, Financial Statutes Amendment Act 2025. Second bullet point is enabling powers for a minister to enter into agreements. Can you explain that further to me? It's a little confusing. Does that mean the minister has veto power over the municipality, or am I misunderstanding that? Thank you.
What slide's that on, Travis?
Would that be slide 15? Financial statutes?
Correct.
Would you be able to touch on this, Joanne? Because
No, I don't have a good answer for you at this point. Let me look into this, and I'll be able to get back to you on this one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what enabling powers for the minister to enter into agreements would mean.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor?
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through to our delegation. You mentioned there is a 2% levy that's effective December 31st, 2026. If a project is assessed before then, does the project effectively dodge that levy? Is that grandfathered in for the future, or is it just for a single year? Would you explain how that deadline would work? Thanks, bye.
I don't know how the two right now would work when it comes to assessment on the 2% levy on the computer hardware. We're going to apologize because we're very new and all this is still kind of coming together on our end too. So I'm not sure, you know, if we were to answer that, I'm not sure we know the answer at this point of time.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I'll take a different path, just more on a very general sense from the overall town perspective. I think you referenced Town of Old's DIP year-over-year increase was something like 8.9% versus provincial-wide of about 3.3. Is it as simple and as straightforward as Olds is a booming metropolis now with growth, or can you comment on why our growth rate in the DIP was about 3 times larger than the provincial average? Thank you.
I could expound on that. I know when it comes to Olds, the assessment totals pretty much went up just on the railway sector, and it wasn't because of growth. It was because of a traffic factor change. So the assessment there for the railway went up. You also saw an increase in your TAL on the A1 you just received. We had to make a big revision on our TEL property type due to incorrect reporting by the stakeholder. So we've made a big revision. So you would have got that today. I wouldn't say that it's booming just because of this large increase. The assessment base is 18 million. So it just, you know, any sort of growth or inflationary change, such as our, I'm going to try to not talk riddles here, Schedule C depreciation factors changing, would inflate that percentage higher. Like it did see a nice, I'm going to say growth, but it's not necessarily growth. Year-over-year change was quite a bit higher than the provincial total.
You're good with that? Okay, any other questions from council? Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I guess not so much of a question, more of a comment. I hope that the number of unanswered questions that we have here just speaks to just how new all this is for all of us. And I really do hope that some of this feedback is taken well and we can work together for some fair and equitable assessments on these new projects. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the delegation for coming here today and sharing the presentation with us. And as Councillor Taylor has indicated, that this is a new experience for all of us, and I hope that this gets all of us thinking about a little bit differently about the assessment and moving forward with some definite answers. So thank you very much for your presentation today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
You're looking for a motion?
You betcha.
I will make the motion that council accept the Alberta Municipal Affairs Assessment Services branch presentation for information.
Thank you. Any last questions or comments? Oh, Joanne, did you have your hand up?
No, well, I did. I was just going to say, if you guys have further questions, you know, I know you've been reaching out to our executive director, who's now the ADM, but, you know, if you bring the questions to us, we're working with the policy unit. We're the assessment side of things, but we do work with our assessment policy unit. We're the ones that are going to have to apply the rules to this type of property. And, you know, assessment here, and I won't get into it too much, is, you know, we have linear on one side, and that's a different property type than what Travis does. So we're just trying to figure out the rules ourselves. So if you have any questions, just please reach out to either Travis and I or Mike Menard, and we'll try to get the answers for you.
Thank you very much for that offer. I'm sure there'll be a few questions that are coming your way in the near future. So thank you again.
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
All right, so CAO Williams?
Thanks, Mayor Daley. Just to maybe highlight a question that came up briefly here. If you were to Google equalized assessment in Alberta, each year this really detailed and very hard to read report is generated by Alberta Municipal Affairs. I'm going to zoom in just briefly here. It gives essentially every municipality in Alberta and what their current equalized assessment is. So let's call it full assessment. So see residential, farmland, non-residential, non-regulated. So that's something that our assessor would assess. Linear property, wells and pipelines and large plants, and the machinery and equipment. They're all the totals under the Municipal Government Act of Assessment in Alberta. If you look at OLDS, which is right here, residential assessment is 1.5 billion for 2025. Our linear assessment is 17 million, and our machinery and equipment is 11.6 million. So a very small percentage of our overall assessment base. Then you add this together, we talk a lot about our assessment split and how we're trying to increase that assessment split from our current 80-20 to 70-30. Now, if I was to say, go to our closest rural neighbor, Mountain View County, and compare those same numbers, it's an ongoing debate in municipal circles for decades now. Their breakdown of, let's say, linear property is 1.5 billion compared to our 17 million. And compared to our 16 million in M&E, they have 610 million. So that is a substantial difference between the taxation revenue powers of rural municipalities compared to the town of Olds and all urban municipalities. So that's right now why data centers are not just causing some obviously mathematical and policy issues for the people who are supposed to assess them, but why in urban jurisdictions they're very unfamiliar, and hence why we want to invite Municipal Affairs here today to give you the initial overview. Because people in the rural municipal world, they live by this as it's such a substantial revenue component, and it's something urban municipalities just don't have access to until recently with the proposed AI data centers. But with that, that's all I just want to comment and encourage you to, I can share this with council if you're interested, but it's also publicly accessible.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, and through you to CAO Williams. We had the delegation suggest that 15% of the overall project cost would be its assessable cost. Based off of our business assessment, that would bring in about $19.5 million per year. I know you've had communications with the province to try to get a better assessed value of what that might actually mean for the municipality. Have you received any response from any of those emails you sent off that might suggest that this could be accurate, or have you received communication otherwise?
Thanks for the question, and through the chair. Yeah, I've had several conversations with the province. The former executive director of this division, her name is Victoria Bachman. She's now the assistant deputy minister as of this month. So she was the person I was in communications with, and she was very hesitant to provide an answer, especially project-specific answer, or even what Minister Glubish said was a per megawatt estimate. But the province is a fluid term, municipal affairs, the people who do the assessment, they're very hesitant, whereas obviously the Ministry of Technology and Innovation, even Minister Glubish himself, they seem to be fairly confident in saying these numbers in public. So I would say I'm not comfortable, I've not gotten a confident answer from the province. I'm comfortable sharing publicly, but certainly at full scale, anything in the realm of a gigawatt is going to generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. What that number is, though, is to be determined.
Okay, any further comments, questions? So now we have a motion on the floor to accept the information. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for that. So that moves us down to item number 4, bylaws. Bylaw 2026-13, land use bylaw 2025-14 amendment. So I'll turn it over to C.O. Williams for introduction.
Thank you once again, Mr. Daly, and we did not get a sufficient number of chairs, so we have Dr. Pedro with us, way to my right. And he's going to lead us through, council through first reading of this land use bylaw amendment.
Okay, hopefully this works from here. Perfect. Good afternoon, Council. You have before you Land Use Bylaw Amendment 2026-13. This Land Use Bylaw Amendment seeks to rezone a property located at 4606 50th Street. That would be on the northwest corner of 50th Street and Highway 2A. The landowner has applied to rezone from the current zoning of RTD to MUN, mixed use node. The purpose of this rezoning is to just expand what the applicable uses are in that area. We have not received any sort of indication on what the direction the landowner would like to go. However, this MUN zoning does provide an expanded use, getting into the small commercial space, slightly increased densities, or a mixed use development in that area. Now, of course, this being in the East Olds ARP, we do have to be cognizant of what that ARP outlines, and administration is quite comfortable that this would fit within that East Olds ARP, and as such, we are supportive of this bylaw amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Pedro. Any preliminary questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the director. I know the RFD asked for a first reading and then setting a public hearing date. Can you talk a little bit about what that process would look like in terms of notification, if any, to surrounding neighboring landholders? Or is it strictly the public hearing and we would go from there? Thank you.
This would follow our usual notification process, and so it would be advertised in the paper and online and be circulated to adjacent properties. And so there would be plenty of notice there.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Kirsch.
Quick question through you to Director Pedro. In the package, there was an overview showing site context and zoning context, but there's no key. The adjacent properties are already zoned similar.
So the properties to the west, they're currently zoned RTD, and then the property to the north and to the south are commercial general at this point. So.
Good. Any other questions or comments? All right, so somebody make the motion. Thank you, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and I move that, bylaw 2026-13 amendment to the land use bylaw 2025-14 be given first reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Now for the second motion, Councillor Kirsch.
I move that Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 1 p.m. in council chambers be set as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw number 2026-13.
Thank you, Councillor Kirsch. Any further comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much for that. Takes us down to number 5 on our agenda, 5.1 RCMP policing priorities. C.O. Williams for introductions.
Thank you once again, and to my right is Director Andrew, and I'll leave it to him to introduce this to council.
Thank you. Through to the chair, we have our Staff Sergeant Jamie Day here to present our annual municipal policing priorities for 2026. You noticed he had a contingent of people with him that had to step out. Unfortunately, they had another engagement at 2 o'clock, but those were new members in the detachment that have joined us in the last few months. So their intent was to come and just be a new face in the perspective. So that's what they were here for. But unfortunately, timing didn't work out. Anyway, I'd like to just present the priorities in your package, and I'll turn it over to Staff Sergeant Day to speak to the new priorities.
Hello. Again, thank you for having me, and I do apologize. I'm struggling to get over this cold, so my voice is not 100% today. I'm struggling a little bit there. If you remember years prior, we used to use called the APP, was the annual performance plan. Is how we done our kind of ways we're going to police our community. What we decided to do this year, this is a brand new CPP so we're going away from the APP. It's going to be the Community Priorities Plan. And with this is getting proper engagement from our communities. We were doing that all along with the APP and coming in consultations and trying to get the best way to police your community. And be open to that, to be open to what people feel that there's an issue in your community and want it to be addressed that. And the priorities always seem to be the same every year. These seem to be crime prevention, traffic safety, police visibility, and usually there's one straggler. So for example, I put in this year mental health. We have taken on a lot of mental health over the last few years. It kind of got pushed onto us, and we've kind of went with that, and obviously partnered with this RPAC program, which has the psych nurse and a member that respond to mental health calls. And if we have a call that we go to that has a little bit of that the person's starting to go down a path that we feel that they're going to their breaking point, that we can utilize these resources. And one of the things I decided to do with the plan this year is I really want to highlight certain resources that we're using to police your community. So not just the Olds attachment. I want to highlight, with crime prevention. I want to highlight areas, we're bringing in, for example, the Southern Alberta Crime Prevention Team. We're bringing in Alert. We're bringing in police dog service. I really want to highlight that in the, because we do a lot of that, but we're not highlighting it in our plan. To me, I don't always love the number base. So if you do feel the number base is quite low, I can really do a better number base. But my goal with the plan was to kind of give you a quarterly snapshot of all the resourcing that you are getting on top of what you're paying for in the town of Olds. So I want to highlight that when it comes to crime reduction. I want to show that, the work that analysts are doing to help us, find hotspots in those different areas that are happening within the community. So if there's a trend of theft of motor vehicles, if there's a trend of, theft over 5,000, those kind of things. I really want to highlight those different areas that, offender management checks. We're checking on individuals more frequently that are living in your community that are on strict conditions, curfew conditions, we call them. So I want to highlight the extra work that we're doing with that to keep those people at bay, that they're not out doing whatever they want to do without being held accountable for breaching those conditions. So I thought that was a good way while also enhancing what the crime reduction member is doing as well, on top of all these other activities. Because the majority of them, the crime reduction member is involved with them. And the nice part with having the crime reduction member in Olds is that they liaise with all these different sections, which highlight us bringing in individuals into our community to help supplement our resources, which I think is a win-win, and definitely crack down on, especially crime in the community of Olds. So that's the first one, was crime reduction. The second one I looked at doing was traffic safety has always been an issue. We get a lot of calls. Obviously, Highway 2 is big for us, but I'm focused on the town of Olds. So more school patrols. What does that look like? Community events, those type of things. Being more engaged in that. Partnering with municipal enforcement, getting out, doing certain enforcement, for example, such as bringing in sheriffs to help do weigh scales when it comes to commercial vehicle traveling through the main corridor. And what does that look like when the ones that are traveling through, are they safe coming through our area? We get a lot of complaints recently on commercial vehicles. And that's one way we can highlight that, is partnering with these different agencies and have kind of a collective response on how to combat that. What does that look like? And obviously focus on impaired driving, check stops, those type of things. The third one, mental health, like I explained first there, the big thing with that is how do we curve that down? And with RPACT, I am seeing that trend down. I'm seeing us do a better response. And again, we're not doctors, we're not nurse practitioners, we're not nurses. We only have so many tools in our toolbox, but we're doing the best that we can to help have that number come down by getting those individuals before they hit crisis. Because when crisis happens, it's too late. It's a 911. They're harming somebody else or themselves, and then it's full-on mode. If we get a call that somebody is kind of going down that path, we can focus on that. I think it's going to highlight that what we're trying to do to accomplish that when it comes to mental health. And like I said, in the interim, I am seeing already it trend down for calls for service because we're getting that proactive help by doing those referrals to mental health team to come out and there's not a phone call. They actually come and attend the person's address, and then they'll safety plan. They'll come up with ideas for that individual to keep them safe. And the last one is I have a lot of like crime prevention is community involvement. Anyone who knows me, community involvement is big for me, and I want to find ways to highlight that as much as I can this summer. I know Valerie sends me all of the community engagements that are happening within the community, and I have members assigned to go to each and every one of them. I want to bring in bike patrols to the downtown core. I really want to highlight as much police visibility in the community as I can, and see what that looks like at the end of summer and see the feedback that we do get. Because I want to build that with my community. I want to build the trust. I want to build the transparency. You know, one of the reasons why I brought members with me today is they're new. I want the community to know who the members are placed in their community. You know, they're individuals who have families in the community. Their kids go to the same schools as everybody else in the community. And I really want to highlight that. Yeah, and so those were my four priorities. Now, with saying that, I'm suggesting those. It doesn't mean we have to pick those. If you've talked to someone in the community and you feel that there's an issue somewhere else, I'm happy to look at the data to see if it does. Because we will get sometimes somebody will say, there's an issue with jaywalking. Okay, well, we can put that under road safety. There's a million ways that with these crime prevention, traffic safety, and police visibility, it's just one kind of tier, and there's a million things we can put underneath it, right? We try not to put that many, obviously, because we want to make sure we're impacting the ones that we're identifying. And one thing about the document that I do like is that it's a working document. So if we do find that something changes throughout the year, we can change it. We can add to it. We can take away from it. So if all of a sudden we see a spike in theft of motor vehicle, okay, we have an issue there. We need to start identifying that. And what are we going to do to combat that theft of motor vehicle? So just because we say these are the priorities, that doesn't mean they're in place. We can change as many times as we want throughout the year. And that gives us more flexibility with you, more flexibility with our community members, and then to have say in how we're going to police your community.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Question to Staff Sergeant Day there. When you have the bike patrol, so how many officers are eligible to be on the bike control? And are they out and about in the later evening and on the weekend, or how do you, put them out on the street?
Right now we have four of us that are bike patrol trained. We're gonna enhance that. I don't think any training is coming out till the fall, unfortunately, but we do have four of us, and we're looking at peak times. So be in the downtown core around peak times, where if we find that the dinner rush, for example, people going to the restaurants on Friday, that kind of stuff, we're going to try to really hit peak times and focus on that, and then just patrolling throughout the afternoons. And again, just not a police officer on a bike, someone who's actually stopping and talking to people and engaging with our community members, and stopping in local businesses and that kind of stuff, and just try to have that engagement. I think it's just a critical role for us to have, and I really want to highlight that this year. And again, just trying to figure out what are the best times, where can we use this and utilize this to the best of our advantage. You're welcome.
Sounds like a great plan. Councillor Kirsch.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Staff Sergeant Day. Your focus on mental health, I think, is commendable. I grew up in this town, and some of our more prolific repeat offenders are guys that used to be friends of mine, and I often wonder, how did they slip down to the dark side? And it always comes back to mental health. So my question is, when we were at the Spring Leaders Caucus, the Edmonton Police Services did a presentation, and they had a major focus as well on mental health. Is this a initiative across policing services across the board, or is it just coincidence that our police service and theirs are kind of focusing on the same thing at the same time? Thank you.
No, I think you're seeing it across the board. I think you're seeing, again, we are all kind of provided that this is an area we're going to go into by the creation of the RPAC team. So I think you're seeing Edmonton seeing it, Calgary seeing it, and obviously rural Alberta seeing it. So I think it's something that you're seeing that we're getting a lot of positivity on, and with the RPAC team, we're seeing again the calls for service decline. I remember just being when I was in Three Hills, when we started focusing on this. It's probably about maybe 3 years ago. Just to give you an example, I think we had 80 calls over the year, and we were trending higher in Three Hills than a place like Strathmore when it came to mental health calls. So we were really seeing the bigger impact when it came to rural, mainly because rural just doesn't have the facilities, right, that the Edmonton would have or Calgary would have. And that was the hard part for us, is because then we were losing a member. For example, if we end up doing a Form 10 apprehension, we'd lose that member now to go off to the hospital, and then for a decent period of time, depending on what the intake was. It wasn't just a simple go to the hospital, hand the individual over to the security team. Until they took the person, admitted the person, we sat there, and we had a member at times sit there for 6 hours, and we fought that over and over again, with the MLAs in the province, and saying like we can't continue this, we can't maintain this. And then so that's when the creation of the RPAC team came in, and that helped alleviate a little bit of that. But we did find by actioning those calls for service early, we find not only now are we not stuck at the hospitals for long periods of time, because we're catching that earlier. We're bringing that RPAC team in earlier. They're safety planning. They're building these individuals a plan that if they feel that there is a crisis coming, how to get that help. So we're just providing resources, trying to help that. And then over those last couple of years, we are seeing that start to trend down, which I think is promising.
Supplemental?
On that note, is there training or certification not necessarily provided, but offered to members of the RCMP to better equip them to deal with mental health calls?
Yeah, we have some. Obviously, it's not our focus, right? We're focused on criminal investigations, and like I said, that's why I do highlight, I tell everyone I talk to, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers, but we do have enough, I think, education when it comes into given the tools when it comes to how do we deal with a mental health crisis. Are we the best person for the job? Absolutely not. Going back to when I first started, it was horrible. It was horrible. Nobody wanted to deal with it. It was almost like if somebody had a mental health breakdown, the solution was put them in custody, put them in cells. And this is going back many, many, many years.
Not only for mental health, when it comes to just that you engage with the community. Do we still have or is it any different officers to different?
We don't have one fully on staff. It's match right now of trying that and seeing how that looks, and with our staffing levels, and the one thing I like about the breakdown that we do is I really think about the budget at the end of the day and how I can be cost effective when it comes to policing the community of Olds. Even though we do have maybe these specialized areas like crew, for example, the crime reduction member. What I like about the flexibility that, especially what he's actually demonstrated, is actually quite impressive, is that if he comes into shift and there's a member, for example, we get a last minute call in sick, we don't have to fight to bring in any overtime to pay the extra cost. We take that member and use them where we think operationally where can he benefit for the day. Now, is it impacted him over and over again? Absolutely not. He's still able to go and maintain the crime reduction responsibilities, but the one-off of that and having to go pay that person to come in on double time to police community, I already have a member on shift who's willing to do that. And that's where it's been amazing here. The members have been extremely flexible and moving those pieces around to say, okay, well, how can we be more cost effective? How can we not just automatically call in overtime and then all of a sudden we're adding to that deficit of our budget. Again, his flexibility has been amazing, and we can really help minimize those costs at the end of the day.
That's great news. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to the staff sergeant. I had a couple of questions, but and now we've taken a little different turn towards this crime reduction officer. Just, is Olds and the detachment here and within the county unique in having that position? And I know I think you referenced the commission, or it's a position that's entirely paid for by the town, but certainly a spillover benefit within the county, which is great as far as crime reduction. But is Olds kind of unique, or this detachment unique in having that role, or do other detachments have that role? It's just maybe called something different. Thank you.
No, I would say for the size of your the detachment, the size of the community, it's very unique. There are some hybrid out there that they're kind of in a hybrid position, so they don't have enough to really put a member in the full-time position, so they're kind of bouncing back and forth. Can be a little harder on the member because they're trying to find out what duty they're doing that day. But having the full-time resource has definitely been, and I've been at the hybrid, I've seen the hybrid when I created in Three Hills. But having the full-time member, just providing that information to the frontline members who has those liaison contacts that if, something simple as we're dealing with motorcycle outlaw gang that's coming through our area. Well, there's a one-stop shop, right? I know where to go for that information, and that member already has those contacts. I can find that information within minutes because he's able to focus on that duty. That if we had something that came into town that, we'll get notified if someone gets released from prison. And they'll say they've decided they want to live in Olds. Olds is booming. They want to come live in Olds. We'll get notified that. Having that member be able to know and provide that data to members who are going call for service. And just an extra ear for them to say, hey, I know this person moved in and everything is on our file. So the member just has to have one quick look, and it's very unique. So I guess at the end of the day, it's such a unique resource to have, but it's very beneficial. I know I sounded long-winded there, but it's very beneficial.
Good, thank you. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. To Staff Sergeant Day. So since the province has discontinued funding for victim services, how has that impacted our community? When I do recall when we had it here, we had people that were readily on call.
Mm-hmm.
They had their phones with them, and if you needed them to come and sit with people that were in an accident, or whether it was mental health or even suicide watches and things like that, until you could actually get them the proper help. How has that impacted our community? And do you believe that we should really be pushing that again for the province to help fund that again?
I miss it every day. I miss the old VSU every day. Just my personal opinion. I thought it was one of the better programs that we had in the partnership that we had with Victim Services. Was absolutely amazing. The amount of care that people put into that program, and the resources and the on-call and the volunteers that would step up was just absolutely inspiring. We are not seeing that today. We're not getting the same service delivery as that we were getting before they took it away. So I do feel that's a big loss for any community. I truly believe that.
Truly supplemental. Okay, so right now it's my understanding that if somebody were in need of that service, the phone call goes to Airdrie and then eventually it gets somewhere. So if you have somebody that needs that assistance right away, you just take them and they're at the police station. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so we're the ones that are doing it. We're the ones, so it's coming back on our plate. And obviously if there's something there we're going to care, we're going to have the empathy and compassion towards that individual. But now we're removing somebody from frontline. But yeah, there's an intake process that will go into Southern Alberta. And I think Central Alberta has one, and so on. But there's an intake, and then depending how the time frame is when it gets to our VSU, like the new VSU, I don't even know the time frame for that. I know there's a period of time she was doing 3 different detachments. No fault to her. She's been amazing. She's been a wonderful person. But she's definitely stretched thin, and I know they've had a lot of turnover. Even when the start of the program started, I think they've terminated a lot of their management, and they're starting over from scratch again. And I think they just had, if I remember correctly, she told me she was going to a meeting in Edmonton again, and I think they need to hash out on how they're gonna do this. Because I think what they had planned is not going as well they thought was gonna take place. Just in what I'm seeing, in my opinion. But yes, I miss that VSU every single day.
One more, and that's it.
I'm sorry, but it's also my understanding that when they call Airdrie, it's like an 8 to 4
Yes.
job there, whereas before we had people on call like at whatever time or day of night. And so is that something that you feel that municipalities should focus back to the province and really advocate for
Absolutely.
funding again for victim services?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no weekends, there's no past 4 o'clock. It's really reduced a lot of what they were doing. So I would definitely, I mean, listen, I can't say it enough. I miss the OVSU every day. Absolutely.
So we'll leave that in your court then to look after. All right, Councillor Cook, and then Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to Staff Sergeant Day. Now that we're moving away from the APP, the Annual Performance Plan, and moving towards the CPP, is this something that we can expect the targets to be updated quarterly and things like that when you do come in and present to us?
Yep.
That was an easy one, eh?
Yeah.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. Through you to the staff. So just take it back to the theme on the priority of mental health, and maybe just a quick short comment from you. If I recall from the county town, RCMP town hall a couple of weeks ago, there's, and you referenced it, I think there's a dedicated 2-person officer staff plus an AHS member. Part of it obviously comes down to dollars at the end of the day and funding, but can you talk a little bit about the capacity of that 3-person team, the region they're covering, and the strain and stress, I guess?
Absolutely. So there's teams that are strategically placed all over the province. Some larger municipalities have their own. So for example, Airdrie would have their own, Cochrane would have their own. So they don't leave that area. They stay within the city of Cochrane, city of Airdrie. But then you look at the rural places. So we fall under there's an RPAC team that's stationed in Drumheller detachment. Now they're not part of Drumheller. They had the most room for them, so they placed them in Drumheller. So they're responsible for actually a really big geographical area. There would be Oyen would be one, Hanna, Drumheller, Three Hills, Strathmore, and Olds. So 6 different detachment areas that they were responsible for. Now I knew them because obviously Three Hills, right, was part of that same group, and I haven't had too many issues that when we need them, they're not here. So even though it's a pretty large area, I policed Oyen a very long time ago. Not a whole lot happens in Oyen. So not saying things don't happen there, but at times, do they need people? Most likely they go out there and do assessments, but usually it's the larger communities that are going to see them more so than the smaller communities. That's what I've been seeing. But very little impact on not, like for example, they come.
Good, thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley, and through to Staff Sergeant Day. At the risk of getting you to repeat yourself, because I think you might have hinted on this, are there some friction points that you've identified that keep you from achieving these priorities and objectives, both from within the organization and from without?
Oh, yeah, that's a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, provincial side, we definitely could be helped out a little bit more. We're not seeing a lot of help on that side, and obviously for obvious reasons. It's frustrating, and I'll be transparent. It's frustrating when you see, we're the police of jurisdiction, and we're trying to, police communities the best that we can. But when money's going to other new police forces, I'll say that, to help fund them, and obviously with the new Alberta Provincial Police Share, I can't remember, APPS, whatever it's called. So yeah, and they're not really doing anything for the other areas. So we definitely could use that funding. That's kind of a friction for me personally, it's frustrating to see that funding go elsewhere when we could utilize it here. It could provincial on the provincial side. I'm a firm believer that Miss Valley Bowls is doing more than their fair share, and I greatly appreciate that and the support. But I'd definitely love to see more on the provincial side for sure, help out.
Thank you. Nothing like putting you on the hot seat.
Oh,
huh?
that was a fun.
Okay. All right. Is there any further questions or comments for Staff Sergeant Day? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming in today and sharing your report with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's lots of good things happening there, and really appreciate all the work that you guys do as a detachment here in our community. So
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll look to council. Councilor Cook.
Thank you, and I move that council accepts for information and moves to adopt the annual policing priorities for 2026 as presented.
Thank you, Councilor Cook. Any last questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much for that. And thank you again, Staff Sergeant Day. All right, takes us to item 5.2, Council Ad Hoc Committee Procedural Bylaw Review. CEO Williams?
Thank you once again, Mayor Daley. This is something that was started last council term, where direction was given to review the procedural bylaw and associated bylaws and policies once in a council term. It was given in the latter half of the last council term, so we're bringing it forward now sooner rather than later. Now that you have a few months behind you, I think it's a good time to look at how council's functioning and if there's any adjustments to be made to your processes and meetings. So how this has been in the past and how it's proposed to continue is that council would, through bylaw, as is mandatory, appoint an ad hoc committee that would exist for the duration of this project, consisting of 3 council members. And the idea there is a best practice that when you have a committee of council, it's best not to have a quorum of council on that committee, hence the recommendation for only having 3 elected officials. Once council establishes that committee, the terms of reference will have a scope of work, some of which is contained in the RFD today on first reading, as well with a timeline to report back to council, which we are aiming for September for implementation at October's organizational meeting. In addition to the procedural bylaw, the committee of the whole bylaw will be considered as well. That is a procedural bylaw light, for the lack of a better phrase, as it governs just your committee meetings. In addition to those 2 bylaws, relevant policies that are affiliated and affected by those 2 bylaws are the public at large, elected official appointment, and elected official responsibilities policies, which would also be given to this committee for review and recommendation to council. So today, we're only asking for first reading, yes, and to offer council the chance to ask any questions, adjust the process if you feel it needs to be adjusted, and speak to any interest amongst the 7 of you of who would like to be on this 3-person committee. So with that, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, CEO Williams. Any questions or comments from council? Councilor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to CEO Williams. I've seen here that we're going to have 3 council members as part of the ad hoc. Would we also have some legislative support included in that as well? Is it in there? Did I miss it? Sorry, I read it 3 times, but I obviously didn't read it well enough. Thank you.
Yeah, Marcy will help out with this committee.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councilor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I would like to show interest in joining this committee.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. Any, Councilor Kirsch?
I'm just thinking about the mix of councilors on this committee. I'm assuming we should have, some seasoned counselors and some new counselors. Mr. Taylor has, Counselor Taylor has volunteered. I can make myself available. That being said, I do think that we should have some counselors who have some experience on this committee.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone, Councillor Blatz?
I would throw my name into that if no one else wanted to, or if maybe Mr. Councillor Wilson, you yourself can pop in and out at any point in time, but I would be willing to sit on that committee as well.
Thank you. A mix of new and seasoned. Very politically correct. That's very good. Yeah, if you would, please then, and then I think what we'll do is we'll, is there more counselors right now that are thinking about this and considering it? Because if so, we would have to prepare for a bit of a ballot for our next meeting. So if there's anybody that is considering it, just let us know so that we can prepare for that. Okay, all right, so then go ahead, Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that Councillor Taylor, Councillor Krush, and Councillor Blatz be on.
Go ahead.
What happened? Sorry.
We need the motion to do the bylaw.
Okay.
And then once the bylaw is approved, then the committee can be struck.
Okay.
So if you guys choose to give all 3 readings and unanimous today, you sure could. And then at the end of that, you could name your committee, or you could just do 1 today, 2, 3 in the committee at the next meeting. You tell us.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I move that bylaw 2026-14 be a bylaw to establish a council ad hoc committee for the review of the procedural bylaw and associated bylaws and policies be introduced, read a first time.
Okay, thank you. Any last comments or questions? Okay, I'll ask the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Did we want to go ahead and appoint the 3 council members today, or we do have time that we can run it through next regular council? What's everybody's thoughts? Councillor Overwater is read all 3. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It looks like it's read all 3 today, so does somebody want to make the first motion? Councillor Kirsch.
I motion that bylaw 2026-14 being a bylaw to establish a council ad hoc committee for the review of the procedural bylaw and associated bylaws and policies be read a second time.
Do they need to mention names? Not yet. Okay. Okay, so second reading of this bylaw. All those in favor? Okay, it's carried. Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I move that bylaw 2026-14, being a bylaw to establish a council ad hoc committee for the review of the procedural bylaw and associated bylaws by policies, be given 3rd reading, or, that unanimous consent be given for 3rd reading of bylaw, as stated, to be considered.
Are you good, Legislative Clerk? Okay. All right. All those in favor? And that is carried. And 3rd reading, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that bylaw 2026-14 being a bylaw to establish the ad hoc committee for the review of the procedural bylaw and associated bylaws and policy be given 3rd and final reading.
Thank you. I never know how to read our legislative clerk, whether we're doing all right or not. All right, Councillor Taylor, are you, okay? All right, all those in favor? There we go. That is carried. So thank you very much for allowing your names to stand for that committee. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that for bylaw 2026-14, the ad hoc committee be established with Councillor Taylor, Councillor Krusch, and Councillor Blatz, with an alternate, Mayor Daley on. Is that good?
Thank you for that. All right. Any further comments or questions? I see none. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much for that, everyone. So that takes us down to 5.3, development permit, PRMO 2625-005. And have you, CAO Williams, introduction.
Thank you once again, and Development Officer Nathan Hill is to my right, and he will take us through this one. Nathan.
There we go. Now I can talk. Good afternoon, Council. Have a single development permit application for you here today. It's going to be an indoor storage building at 4920 49th Avenue. This parcel is in the Uptown Olds area redevelopment plan and the mixed-use center district. Where indoor storage is a council discretionary use, and that's why it's before you today. It's a pretty compressed parcel. Canada Pacific owns the other half of that, and our understanding is that they're going to hang on to that in case they have to do any railway operations. So it's a pretty constricted parcel, and so in the opinion of administration, indoor storage is an appropriate use given the constraints on that parcel. I circulated it to 16 adjacent landowners, and I received no comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, is there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Krusch.
Just a comment, I think this fits perfectly fine in the area, and these types of buildings are being built further south, I guess it would be, and I have no problem with this.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to the CEO. Can you remind me, again, I'm sure, I know this is dependent on the development permit and the building permit and the speed at which the landowner will progress with that construction, but how does this work from a tax revenue perspective? I hate to navel gaze and look in the crystal ball, but if you assume this thing is built by end of year or between now and end of year, it won't really affect our tax position until next year, assessment and everything else, correct? Thank you.
Thanks for the question through the chair. So for 2026 construction year, called the valuation date, July 1st, that's when the assessor takes a snapshot of the market and says, this is the value of, let's say, commercial property per square foot, or whatever the assessed approach is, cost, income, market appraisal. Then on December 31st is the condition date. So any property, this property included, its current condition as of December 31st, that's what it gets assessed on. So if this project gets started in 2026, there will be some tax component on what we call the improvement side of the tax roll. Generally speaking, you have a land tax assessment rather, and then an improvement assessment. So the land is obviously there, it's being assessed and taxed, but any improvements made, whether it be a foundation dug or walls put up or a completed facility built, will have assessment and tax implications for the 2027 taxation year.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, then I'll look for a motion. Counselor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And I move that council approve development permit PRMO-2026-0055, subject to the conditions outlined in the attached documents.
Thank you, Counselor Cook. Any last questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. Okay, it moves us on to item number 6, correspondence and information. You'll see in your agenda package that there is a considerable list of correspondence in there. Is there any questions or comments on any of the correspondence? Councillor.
I just wanted to put a spotlight on the EDAC report, specifically the Industry Connector Forum scheduled for June 12th at the Alumni Center at the college. More information is at centralalbertafirst.ca, and that is my comment.
Excellent. Have you ever considered a career in radio? Good job. Any other comments? Okay. Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I make the motion that the correspondence and information report ending May 11, 2026 be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. And so that takes us to section 7, our Chief Administrative Officer report. Turn it over to CAO William.
Thank you once again. So in the package, there's just one page included, and that's the reporter problem summary for April. As you can see, we are up year over year in terms of April comparisons, which is positive, down quite a bit from March, which was a snowy, icy month. And now we're well into the pothole, back alley issues that season, which we expect to continue until the fall. But nothing out of the ordinary. System continues to work well, and crews are outgrading back alleys. We're doing what's called cold mix patches at the moment on some potholes until the asphalt plant closest to us opens, which should be imminently. Then we'll start with the full asphalt repair program. Few verbal things to update council on. On the ECDev front, the economic development strategy is open at the moment, as you are aware. It closes, I believe, next week, and with a final engagement report and final draft of the ECDev strategy planned to be presented on June 1st at Committee of the Whole. So encourage people to fill that out, and as noted, that is a 2+ year process that is coming to a close, with council giving consideration to a final ECDev draft strategy. On the data center piece, so I'm just trying to find my notes. The data district, we don't have still no updates on that. As far as I understand it, that is still in the Invest Canada Act approval at the federal level, and we'll communicate on that as soon as we hear something. On the Synapse proposal, there is 2 dates recently announced. The AUC will host a public forum on May 21st at 5:30 p.m. at the Pomeroy Hotel, much similar to what council heard last meeting here by Kim McNabb and her team. And then the deadline to file SIPs, Statements of Intent to Participate, is the end of the month. I believe it's the Friday 29th will be the last date for submissions for anyone who wishes to file there. Just bear with me, I have to find my notes for the next section. And given the time between now and Director Pedro's next report to council, I want to run through a few infrastructure and operations items, as it's going to be a busy month or 2 upcoming. Use my phone. Street sweeping has been going quite well. That should wrap up by the end of this week, we are anticipating. The 57th Avenue construction project has been awarded. The pre-construction meeting is this week, and we expect June 1st to be the road closure and commencement of construction date. The project was awarded to Border Paving, and it's expected to be complete by August 1st. So we have issued individual communications to adjacent landowners, and we'll do further broader communications in the coming weeks, but it will be a significant traffic disruption for that part of town and a major arterial road. So 60 days is the intended, weather dependent, the construction timeline. You have seen and you will see a lot of digging in the roads, identifying a lot of water leaks and sanitary infiltration repairs that are required. We've done, I believe, just 4 in the last week alone, mostly in the southwest quadrant of town, where we see a lot of issues related to improper installation, poor workmanship, dating back at the time of those utility coming online 20 to 30 years ago. On the water side, we're still getting a lot of success with the cam strip meters identifying those leaks. And in addition to the CCTV sanitary inspections that were carried out in 2024 and 2025, we have about 70 of those repairs or areas to investigate, so slowly picking away through that. Unfortunately, a lot of the southwest quadrant is also afflicted by high groundwater tables. So we're seeing a lot of infiltration in the sanitary system through groundwater. And this is the time of year to catch that. So our crews have been out there cameraing in that area quite frequently and finding a lot of sources of infiltration that way. So outside of trying to patch the holes in the pipes and in the seals and in the joints, you'll see some projects soon. We're going to be drilling some groundwater wells in the southwest quadrant of town in the areas of Deer Ridge subdivision and the Highland subdivision to help us monitor groundwater levels and compare that to our sanitary data. All of this is just to give you a heads up because, again, Adrian won't be in front of you for a little while yet. He will have much more detail and be able to answer questions much more effectively than I'll be able to answer them so at that time, but as an FYI. Water meter replacement program phase 3 kicks off later this month. Letters will be sent to approximately 1,039 homeowners and businesses this week, just notifying them of the process forthcoming to book appointments and have meters installed. This phase, once complete, will bring us to just over half of the entire program completed at 2,500 or so meters of about 5,000 meters we have, but seeing great success with that program. And then we had the branch dump is now open, but the first week, unfortunately, had a lot of garbage being dumped there, so we've had some communication go out publicly about the fact we only want to see grass, branches, leaves, and the like dumped in there. Going to monitor it for a bit longer, and if the problem persists, we'll have to take some more evasive steps to try to correct that. That's about all I had for the CIO report. Happy to take any questions on those topics or other things.
Thank you, CEO Williams. Look to Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley, and through you to CL Williams. Thank you for the update, and I find it disturbing with the branch and leaf dump that we are seeing garbage come through, because we had the same issue when we had the big green bins in town and we had to remove those due to abuse. So I would really hate to see us have to close down this leaf and branch dump because people abuse the system yet again. And that would be unfortunate. I find that it's too bad can we put cameras up to monitor this and maybe start having some kind of way to make these individuals responsible.
Thanks, and through the chair, yes, we're gonna hopefully start with just the communication of the issue and see if that solves it. If not, we'll shortly move to either a camera system or a manned approach. So they both have cost implications. We'll probably have to scale down the opening hours of this facility, if it's, for example, going to be manned by a staff member or a summer student. It also takes productivity away from the field also. So, yeah, Public Works operations they're working through right now, and I'll let you know as soon as we have that solution and how the progress is going.
Thank you. Councillor Kirsch.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to CAO Williams. On the ECDEV strategy, what is the best place or way for the public to put their word in or interact with that strategy? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. So the strategy is currently live on our website, which is olds.ca / economic development, but Google is my best friend too, so putting some version of Olds economic development in Google will get them there. Outside of your Coffee with Council event last week, we'll be presenting the draft on June 1st, Committee of the Whole, before taking to a final council meeting, and we would obviously welcome any form of submission outside of the survey, whether it be email, chatting with elected official, or contacting our ECDEV department directly, which all that information is either at investolds.ca or in the appropriate space on our website, olds.ca / economic development.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, and through you to the CAO. And perhaps we ran it already, and I missed it as a resident, but I know in the past we've run a 1 week kind of spring clean where certain larger items that don't fit into the normal bin can be put curbside for pickup. I'm not talking about kick to the curb. I'm talking about the actual pickup for collection. Have we run that, or are we running that, or what's the status? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. No, we haven't run that in a few years now, so there's no intention of running that this year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Kirsch.
Thank you, and through you to CAO Williams. You touched on the SIP deadline. Will there be any communications from the town, either through social media or the website, to further communicate that deadline to the public? Thank you.
Indeed, we should have a social post going out on data center updates each week leading up to the end of the month, which we communicate both the AUC open house, our information session, and the deadline to file a SIP as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that's going to be on Engage, on our new Engage site as well.
Yes, it will be available. Olds.ca / engagement is kind of the catch-all site, and if people prefer going that way. And then outside of that, we'll have similar type updates like you saw today and last meeting. But in the near term, from municipal staff, as we start to see more information and unpack more information, things like the proposed emergency response plan and things like that, once I would say close to the end of the month into June until we're able to provide more information on those, but we'll try to continuously have some form of information put forward publicly, generally through social media and then at regular council meetings and committee meetings.
Good, thank you. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daly, and through you to CO Williams on the SIP portion of it. I've had several residents and individuals who have approached me regarding filing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we do know that people who have concerns should be filing a SIP, and we would encourage them to do so. But also those who favor this type of development can also apply or be part of a participant in this process as well, correct?
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, correct, the AUC portal and process is open to anyone deemed affected in opposition, in favor, or seeking more clarity or input.
Yes, thank you for that, because that's the questions I've been receiving, so I appreciate the answer.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. And this is a comment for Councillor Krush's question. Anybody in the 800 meter zone was also mailed an AUC document to show what all the deadlines were and what the filing process would be like. So there's non-town materials going out as well.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments for CAO Williams? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Mayor Daley. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted for information.
Thank you for that. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. So our next item is closed session, so I'll just read our little paragraph here. When council goes into closed session for continued participation in the virtual council meeting, stay online in the live stream meeting platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic. When graphics are removed, that will indicate that the meeting is ready to reconvene. Do I have a motion to go into closed session? Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that council goes into a closed session under ATIA Section 20, disclosure harmful to personal privacy, the Olds Municipal Library Board appointment.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. So at 2:46 we go close. Thank you. Coming out of closed session, we had a motion from Councillor Kirsch at 3 p.m. to come out of closed session. So we have a couple of motions to make, so I'll look to Councillor Blatz to make the first motion.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that Jennifer Lutz be appointed to the Olds Municipal Library Board for a term of 1 year to expire as of October 25th, 2026.
Thank you for that. Any last comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And I'll look to Councillor Cook to make the second motion.
Thank you, Mayor Daley. I move that Katrina Els be appointed to the Olds Municipal Library Board for a term of 2 years to expire October 23rd, 2028.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is passed unanimously as well. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today, and takes us to item number 10, adjournment. I adjourn the meeting at 3:02 p.m.